Hey everyone! It's an exciting week for Cortex, and not just because you get at least two videos from me in the same week. You'll probably actually get three videos. I've got another one that I'll probably record tomorrow and release. Um, but uh, because there's a lot going on in Cortex, that's why it's exciting. Specifically, uh, we've released version 1.3.1 with a couple Um, not so much bug fixes, actually. Yes, kind of bug fixes, but actually kind of more along the lines of enhancements. Um, that's not necessarily a trend that I'm going to start doing, of doing enhancements in patch releases. That's probably bad practice. But in this case, it really was kind of uh, little tweaks that really needed to be there in order for some of the things that we released in 1.3 to work as well as they needed to. It kind of came from some early feedback that we got from 1.3 um, and how it actually worked in the wild. Some of which came in the demo. So if you saw the video, let's see, what that would have been yesterday, I think. Um, you saw that I ran into some issues running Cortex in a particular deployment environment that I was trying to run it in. That's certainly embarrassing for me. That's not how I want my demos to go. And uh, that's absolutely something that we want to fix. So I wanted to show in this video that I fixed those issues. Everything is working now. And that's kind of the culture that we want to have here. If you run into an issue, let us know. We'll fix it. I want to be very upfront with you about how big an issue is and how long it might take to fix. In this case, it was really quick to fix. So, I did it in a day and hey, look, it's fixed. So let me get into the actual demo and show you the sort of features that I've added to fix these slight issues. Um, Before I do that, I do want to remind everyone that every Tuesday I run the Cortex users group. It's a Zoom call, hour-long Zoom call, but you can come for as long or as short a time as you want. Come with questions, talk to other people who are looking at using Cortex, currently using Cortex, wherever on their Cortex journey. And there's links to request an invite to that down in the video description, as well as all sorts of information on trying out Cortex, seeing it on your own data, and scheduling time with me outside of the user group um, to talk about how we can get Cortex running on your own Cherwell data. All right, let's get to the demo. All right, so I added two configuration flags in the authentication section, and they are lookup by, and this will be in the documentation site. It isn't right this second um, because, well, mainly I haven't gotten to it yet. It will be in the documentation. I expect this might be kind of a less used feature, so not the end of the world that it's not there right now, but it will be there very soon. Um, but this video serves as the primary documentation for these flags right now. So look up by and identifier claim. Now, look up by is basically either blank or email with a capital E. Um, there's a reason for that. I won't get into that on this video, but that's basically indicating how we should look up users once they've been authenticated. Should we use basically the username that shows up in the users section of Cherwell, or should we use the email address that's part of their actual user BizOb record? Um, so the issue that I was running into, I said there was some magic that goes on with SAML. Um, Now I make it explicit, so I can say we should look up these users by email, not by username, more or less, but by email address. So email. Now, identifier claim is just an additional level of customizability that hopefully, I'm hoping will kind of help me as I'm helping you set things up on your systems if whatever I'm looking for in the, let's just say the SAML assertions, um, isn't the way that you identify users. If you want to use, say, email address to identify users, okay, that's fine. If you have a particular claim that contains a specific username, um, this might make more sense if you're currently using LDAP for Cherwell, for instance, and we have to put an additional layer on top of LDAP and kind of translate some of the user information. Um, we can use this identifier claim to basically say this particular piece of user information is what contains either the username that appears in Cherwell or the email address that appears in Cherwell. And basically, by tweaking these two settings, we can find the right combination of pieces that will line up. So basically, lookup by is where do we look in on the Cherwell side. Identifier claim is where do we look on the authentication service side. So I think those two pieces will really help demystify some of the authentication magic that goes on. Now, in my case, all I did was I changed, I specifically set the email setting, or the lookup by setting to email, which means that here in my user, you can see I was playing around with it. I could make this absolute garbage at this point, and now Cortex will specifically look at the email address here, because that's how I've configured basically the IDP. That's how I've configured Keycloak. I've configured it to use the email address as the piece of authentication. So I think I actually want to set that to be parks because that's how I want me to show up in Cortex. So I can save that user, and I think it's safe. Yeah, it's safe. And just to prove that I can still log into Cherwell, let's go over to Cherwell and select the database, and SAML will pop up. We'll log in with Google. I've already signed in before, so it'll remember who I am and just kind of hide that process. And now, look, I'm logged in. Nothing I did there changed anything with regard to how Cherwell logs me in, so I can just go right in. Now, what it did change is on the Cortex side. Let me just restart login. Just go to a blank slate. Now I can do the same login process with Google, and of course, it will log me in once I choose my email address to log in as. And once again, I get this funny state. Let's just start over from the beginning. All right, so right, it still thinks I'm logged in. Okay, so back to Cortex. It redirects me to the login screen. Log in with Google. Choose the proper email address. It logs me in, and there we go. I'm logged in as vparch at synapsesoftware.com. And now we can show the other thing that I've fixed, which it really is a bug fix in 1.3.1. This isn't so much of a feature. All of these links now work. So we can browse by business object. We can go in. This is actually a completely empty database, so I don't have any incidents. We can go back to the home screen, and we can search printer and hit enter. And again, no incidents, so there aren't going to be any results. Go back to search. We can click log out. That'll go to the right place. All of these links still work, or now work the way they are supposed to. And the reason that was an issue before is here in this URL bar that might be kind of small, but I'm actually running this Cortex instance inside IIS on the same machine as I'm running Cherwell. So here in IIS Manager, you see the default website. You also see all the normal Cherwell stuff, but I also have an app called Cortex. Um, when I'm developing locally on my machine, it's the only thing running, and it kind of runs its own little development server. So every URL is slash whatever inside of Cortex. Obviously, inside of IIS, when it's running in its own virtual directory inside its own application, the URL is slash Cortex slash whatever the rest of the URL is. Um, and there were a few places in Cortex where I was just taking some shortcuts and just kind of being lazy about things. That obviously came back to bite me. Moral of the story: don't do lazy things; it will come back to bite you. Um, I'm not. That's pretty much the only place I was doing anything lazy like that. Everything else is obviously keyed to look at your database. I can't make any assumptions because I don't know what your database is going to look like. Um, so all of that is very defensive and uh, makes sure that whatever is in your database is accurately reflected in Cortex. Um, so basically, what this means is that number one, depending on what your authentication scenario is like, Cortex should be able to handle it, and it should be a little bit easier to be explicit about how Cortex should handle that authentication situation. Um, Secondly, this does open up more possibilities for how you can deploy Cortex. So you can run it on the same machine that you're running Cherwell on. You can run it on an IIS server that you already have that you're running other internal applications on. Or you can certainly run Cortex on its own machine by itself at the root of an IIS site, um, or on Linux or other deployment environments. Um, which I haven't really done any demos of that because I expect that 99.9% of you are going to be running Cortex in IIS, right? Just kind of mimic uh, what Cherwell's deployment model was like. But I do support a bunch of other things. Um, yeah, that's basically Cortex 1.3.1. And now, for the most part, I'm on to Cortex 1.4, which will bring with it some cool new features, mostly around searching for records and being able to export records. Um, so stay tuned for that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. If you're interested in seeing Cortex 1.3.1, it is released as of today, and it is available from the releases site. I think that's linked down below. If not, that's available from the documentation site, which I know is linked down below. If you want some help installing this, let me know. There's links to get in touch with me in the description. If you have questions, leave comments on the video, shoot me a message, schedule time with me. Let me know how we can make 1.4 and the future 1.5 if we need a 1.5 um, can make all this magic happen for you on your Cherwell database. If 1.3 is sufficient, or 1.3.1, I guess, that's fine too. 1.3.1 is kind of the really the first release that I feel like kind of has the complete package. Everything else from this point on will be kind of nice to haves and maybe specific use case oriented, right? Specific organizations and companies might have uh, unique ways that they want to handle their data or handle their compliance requirements, handle their data exports and those sorts of things. But with 1.3, we kind of have the main milestones. We've got being able to access the data, being able to see it in both grid and form, no pun intended. And we have authentication, right? So that's kind of um, the main use cases right there. And from now on, it'll be just putting a little bit more icing on the cake, and making it just that little bit more compelling for those one-off, more specific use cases. Um, so if you have one of those use cases, if you have one of those unique compliance requirements, let me know. And like I said, we'll get to work on them tomorrow. Just kidding. Maybe not tomorrow, but let us know, and we'll definitely put it on the roadmap. Um, Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later this week in the next video of this week.